Introduction to the incident. It was a sunny afternoon in Washington, D.C., a day that seemed to promise the usual hustle and bustle of political life. The air was thick with anticipation as guests arrived at a high-profile event hosted by none other than former President Donald Trump. The venue, a lavishly decorated ballroom in a prestigious hotel, was buzzing with energy. Politicians, business leaders, and celebrities mingled, discussing everything from policy to personal anecdotes. Little did they know that this gathering would soon become infamous for an unexpected incident that would spark widespread conversation across the nation. Among the attendees was an accomplished chef named Marcus Johnson, renowned not only for his culinary skills, but also for his commitment to social justice and community service. Marcus had spent years working in some of the finest kitchens in America, earning accolades for his innovative dishes that celebrated African American culture. He had been invited to cater this exclusive event, bringing with him a team of talented chefs who shared his passion for food and equality. As Marcus prepared for the evening's festivities, he couldn't help but feel a mix of excitement and nervousness. This was not just another catering job. It was an opportunity to showcase his work in front of influential figures. He had spent weeks planning a menu that highlighted the rich flavors of Southern cuisine, infused with modern twists that reflected his heritage. The aroma of spices filled the kitchen as he meticulously arranged each dish, envisioning the delighted expressions on guests' faces. As the event commenced, guests began to fill the room, their laughter and chatter creating an electric atmosphere. Trump arrived fashionably late, greeted by applause and cheers from his supporters. He was in high spirits, engaging with attendees and sharing anecdotes from his time in office. The former president had always been known for his charisma and ability to command attention, and tonight was no exception. As dinner was served, Marcus took pride in watching guests savor his creations. Each plate was a labor of love, crafted with care and attention to detail. However, amidst the clinking of glasses and lively conversations, an unexpected moment was about to unfold that would change the course of the evening. After mingling for a while, Trump made his way toward the kitchen area to meet Marcus. The chef had been eagerly anticipating this moment, not just because he wanted to impress the former president, but also because he believed in building bridges through food. As Trump approached, Marcus extended his hand with a warm smile. "Mr. Trump, it's an honor to meet you," he said sincerely. But instead of reciprocating the gesture, Trump hesitated for a moment that felt like an eternity. The room fell silent as all eyes turned toward them. In what seemed like a deliberate act of dismissal, Trump turned away without shaking Marcus's hand. Gasps filled the air as murmurs rippled through the crowd. Many were taken aback by this apparent snub. After all, Marcus was not just any chef. He was a respected figure in culinary circles and a passionate advocate for equality. The atmosphere shifted from celebratory to tense in an instant. Marcus stood there momentarily stunned, processing what had just happened. The refusal felt like more than just a personal slight. It echoed deeper societal issues surrounding race and respect. He had always believed that food could unite people across divides, but this encounter left him questioning that notion. As whispers spread among guests about what had transpired, some expressed disbelief while others quietly supported Marcus through nods or encouraging glances. The incident quickly became the talk of the evening. It was more than just a handshake. It symbolized something much larger. Unbeknownst to everyone present at that moment, there was more to Marcus than met the eye. As they stood there in silence, waiting for what would happen next, one crucial detail remained hidden. Marcus Johnson wasn't just an accomplished chef. He was also the head of security detail for the Secret Service assigned to protect Trump during public appearances. This twist would soon add another layer of complexity to an already charged situation, a revelation that would challenge perceptions and spark discussions long after the event concluded. The refusal. As the evening progressed, the atmosphere in the ballroom was charged with a mix of excitement and anticipation. Guests were enjoying the exquisite dishes prepared by Marcus Johnson and his team, Each played a testament to culinary artistry. Laughter and clinking glasses filled the air, but an undercurrent of tension lingered following the unexpected encounter between Trump and Marcus. After the initial shock of Trump's refusal to shake hands had settled, murmurs began to circulate among the attendees. Some guests exchanged glances, their expressions reflecting disbelief and confusion. Others leaned in closer to hear the latest gossip about what had just transpired. The event was meant to celebrate unity and collaboration, but this moment had introduced an unsettling discord. Marcus, still reeling from the snub, tried to focus on his work. He moved through the kitchen, checking on his staff and ensuring that each dish was served promptly. Yet, his mind was elsewhere. The refusal felt personal, a stark reminder of the challenges he faced as a black professional in a predominantly white industry. He had always believed that food could transcend barriers, but now he felt as if he were standing at one. Meanwhile, Trump continued to mingle with other guests, seemingly unfazed by what had happened. His demeanor was confident as he engaged in animated conversations about politics and business. However, beneath that bravado lay an obliviousness that would soon come back to haunt him. As Trump approached another group of guests, he noticed their hushed tones and pointed glances toward the kitchen area. Curiosity piqued, he turned to see Marcus overseeing his team. A flicker of recognition crossed Trump's face. He recalled Marcus's name from the event's briefing materials, but hadn't connected it to the chef he had just dismissed. "Who is that chef?" Trump asked one of his aides, feigning casual interest. "That's Marcus Johnson," the aide replied, a hint of urgency in his voice. "He's not just any chef. He's well respected in culinary circles and has worked with several high-profile clients. He also has a strong social media presence." Trump's expression shifted from indifference to concern as he processed this information. The realization that he had just snubbed someone of such stature began to sink in. It wasn't just about etiquette. It was about public perception and potential fallout. Back in the kitchen, Marcus tried to shake off the incident and refocus on his work. He checked on a batch of fried chicken, crispy on the outside and juicy on the inside, while engaging with his team. They were all aware of what had happened. Whispers had traveled quickly among them. "Are you okay?" one of his sous chefs asked quietly. Marcus nodded but couldn't hide the disappointment in his eyes. "I'm fine," he replied, though his voice lacked conviction. "Let's just keep our heads down and finish strong." As dinner continued, guests were served course after course of Marcus's carefully curated menu. Collard greens simmered with smoked turkey, cornbread muffins baked to golden perfection, and rich gumbo that warmed both body and soul. Each dish was met with applause and compliments, except for one lingering shadow that loomed over the evening. Trump eventually made his way back toward Marcus's station, this time with a different energy. He approached cautiously, aware now of who Marcus was but still unsure how to navigate this awkward situation. As he drew closer, Marcus stood tall behind the counter, maintaining professionalism despite what had transpired earlier. "Marcus," Trump began, attempting to sound congenial yet guarded, "I've heard great things about your work." Marcus looked up from plating a dish, meeting Trump's gaze with a mixture of professionalism and guarded skepticism. "Thank you," he replied evenly, not wanting to let personal feelings cloud his professional demeanor. "I didn't realize who you were when we first met," Trump continued awkwardly. "I hope you can forgive me for not shaking your hand earlier." The words hung in the air between them like an uninvited guest at a party, a reminder of an uncomfortable moment that couldn't be erased simply by acknowledgement. Marcus took a breath before responding. "It's important for everyone to feel respected in this space," he said carefully. "Food brings us together. It should be about unity." Trump nodded slowly, but appeared taken aback by Marcus's directness. The former president was used to being surrounded by sycophants who rarely challenged him or offered candid feedback. This moment was different. It forced him to confront not only his actions but also their implications. As they stood there in an uneasy silence, other guests began to notice the interaction unfolding before them. Whispers resumed as people leaned in closer, eager to catch snippets of conversation between Trump and the chef, who had become an unexpected focal point of the evening. In that moment, something shifted, not just for Marcus, but for everyone present. The incident had transformed from a simple refusal into a conversation about respect and recognition in a world often divided by race and privilege. But as Trump moved away from Marcus once more, this time without further incident, the lingering question remained. Would this moment lead to genuine reflection, or simply fade into another footnote in political history? Yet the air remained thick with unspoken words and lingering glances. Guests continued to enjoy the sumptuous feast prepared by Marcus Johnson, but an undercurrent of curiosity surrounded the chef. What had begun as a simple catering event had morphed into a spectacle, and many were left wondering about the man behind the culinary creations. In the kitchen, Marcus tried to focus on his work, but his mind was racing. He had always believed in the power of food to bridge divides, yet here he was, confronted with an incident that challenged that very notion. The refusal from Trump felt like a personal affront, a reminder of the systemic barriers he had fought against throughout his career. Yet he also understood that this moment was bigger than him. It was about representation and respect in spaces where they were often lacking. Meanwhile, Trump moved through the crowd, engaging with guests and attempting to shake off the awkwardness of his earlier encounter with Marcus. He was aware that his actions had drawn attention and scrutiny. After all, he was no stranger to controversy. As he mingled, he couldn't shake the feeling that something significant had just transpired, something that could potentially shape public perception in ways he hadn't anticipated. As guests continued to discuss their experiences at the event, whispers about Marcus's background began to circulate. Some attendees were intrigued by his impressive resume. Others were curious about his personal story. It wasn't long before someone in the crowd made a startling revelation. "Did you know that Marcus is actually the head of security for this event?" one guest remarked, their voice rising above the chatter. "He's not just a chef, he's responsible for ensuring everyone's safety." The news spread like wildfire through the room. Guests exchanged incredulous looks as they processed this new information. The man who had been dismissed so casually by Trump was not only an accomplished chef, but also a figure of authority, a protector tasked with safeguarding one of the most controversial figures in American politics. As this revelation sank in, conversations shifted. Guests began to reflect on their own assumptions and biases. The incident took on new meaning. It was no longer just about a handshake, but about respect for individuals regardless of their background or profession. The dynamics in the room changed as people started to reconsider their perceptions of both Marcus and Trump. Back in the kitchen, Marcus remained unaware of how rapidly news of his dual identity was spreading among guests. He focused on plating desserts, decadent peach cobblers topped with homemade vanilla ice cream, while his team worked diligently beside him. They shared knowing glances, aware that something monumental was unfolding outside their kitchen doors. As dessert service commenced, Trump found himself cornered by a group of guests who were eager to discuss Marcus's impressive credentials. "Did you know he's also responsible for your security?" one attendee asked pointedly, raising an eyebrow at Trump. The former president paused, caught off guard by this sudden shift in conversation. "Really?" he replied, feigning nonchalance while internally processing how this revelation could impact his image. "Yes. He's not just a chef. He's got years of experience in security detail," another guest chimed in. "It makes you wonder what would have happened if you'd shaken his hand earlier." Trump felt a wave of discomfort wash over him as he realized that this incident could easily spiral into a public relations nightmare. The narrative surrounding him was shifting rapidly from one of casual indifference to one laden with implications about race and respect. Meanwhile, Marcus continued to serve dessert with grace and poise, unaware of how his identity had transformed public perception within moments. As guests savored each bite of his creations, they began to engage more deeply with him, not just as a chef but as a person worthy of respect and acknowledgement. Finally, after dessert service concluded, An unexpected moment arose when Trump approached Marcus once more, this time with a different demeanor. He seemed more contemplative than before, perhaps realizing that there was more at stake than just social niceties. "Marcus," Trump said as he approached the kitchen entrance where Marcus stood overseeing his team, "can we talk for a moment?" Marcus looked up from his work, surprised yet cautious. "Of course," he replied evenly. "I've heard some interesting things about you tonight," Trump continued, searching for the right words. "I didn't realize you were involved in security for this event." Marcus nodded slowly, recognizing that this conversation could be pivotal. "Yes," he said calmly, "it's part of my role here." "I want to apologize for earlier," Trump said finally, sincerity creeping into his voice. "I should have treated you with more respect." The acknowledgement hung in the air between them, a moment of vulnerability that felt rare for both men. For Trump, it was an admission that he wasn't always above reproach. For Marcus, it was validation that his work, and who he was, mattered. "I appreciate that," Marcus replied thoughtfully. "It's important for everyone to feel valued in any space." As they stood there exchanging words, two men from vastly different worlds, the atmosphere shifted once again. The evening had transformed from an awkward encounter into a dialogue about respect and understanding across divides. Little did they know that this moment would resonate beyond the ballroom walls. It would spark discussions about race relations and professional respect long after the event concluded. Public reaction. As the evening came to a close, the event buzzed with conversations that had shifted from light-hearted banter to serious discussions about respect, race, and identity. The unexpected encounter between Donald Trump and Marcus Johnson had ignited a firestorm of reactions both inside the ballroom and beyond its walls. What had started as a seemingly minor incident was quickly becoming a focal point for broader societal issues. The following morning, social media erupted with commentary about the event. Hashtags like "Respect in the Kitchen" and "Bauer Chef Marcus" began trending as people shared their thoughts on the incident. News outlets picked up the story, framing it as a significant moment in the ongoing conversation about race relations in America. Analysts debated the implications of Trump's refusal to shake hands with Marcus, questioning whether it was a reflection of deeper biases or simply a momentary lapse in judgment. In the days that followed, public opinion began to crystallize around the incident. Many praised Marcus for his professionalism and composure in the face of disrespect. Social media users shared stories of their own experiences with bias and discrimination, drawing parallels to Marcus's situation. The narrative quickly evolved from one man's snub to a collective call for accountability and respect in both personal and professional interactions. Prominent figures in the culinary world rallied behind Marcus, expressing their support through interviews and social media posts. Chefs from diverse backgrounds shared their own stories of overcoming prejudice in their careers. "This isn't just about one chef, it's about all of us who have faced similar challenges," one well-known chef tweeted. "Marcus represents a voice that needs to be heard." Meanwhile, Trump's team scrambled to manage the fallout from the incident. They issued statements attempting to downplay the situation, emphasizing that it was an innocent mistake rather than a deliberate slight. However, many found this explanation unconvincing. Critics pointed out that Trump's history of controversial remarks and actions made it difficult to separate intent from impact. As public discourse intensified, various organizations began organizing discussions and panels focused on race and representation in professional spaces. These events aimed not only to address issues highlighted by the incident, but also to foster dialogue about inclusivity in industries where diversity had often been overlooked. In one such panel discussion held at a prominent culinary school, Marcus was invited as a guest speaker. He stood before an audience of aspiring chefs and industry professionals, ready to share his experiences and insights. "Food has always been my passion," he began, "but it's also been my platform for advocacy. We must use our voices to challenge norms and push for change." The audience listened intently as Marcus recounted his journey, his struggles in breaking into a predominantly white industry, his commitment to mentoring young chefs of color, and his belief that food could serve as a bridge between communities. He emphasized that respect should be foundational in every interaction, regardless of background or profession. "Every time we serve a meal," he said passionately, "we have an opportunity to connect with others on a human level. Let's not waste that chance." His words resonated deeply with those present, inspiring many to reflect on their own roles in fostering inclusivity within their fields. Meanwhile, Trump faced mounting criticism from various corners of society. Late-night talk shows featured segments mocking his inability to recognize Marcus's significance and the consequences of his actions. Comedians used humor to highlight how moments like these could perpetuate stereotypes and reinforce systemic issues. As public sentiment continued to evolve, some supporters of Trump attempted to defend him by claiming he was simply unaware of Marcus's role at the event. However, this defense fell flat for many who argued that regardless of intent, the impact of his actions spoke volumes about societal attitudes toward race. Amidst this whirlwind of reactions, Marcus remained grounded. He continued his work in the culinary world, while also engaging with community initiatives aimed at promoting diversity in kitchens across America. He participated in workshops designed to empower young chefs from underrepresented backgrounds, sharing not only his culinary expertise, but also his insights into navigating challenges within the industry. As months passed since that fateful evening, Marcus's story became emblematic of larger conversations about race and respect in America. His experience resonated with many who had faced similar challenges, sparking discussions about how individuals could advocate for change within their own spheres of influence. In an interview with a national news outlet several weeks later, Marcus reflected on how one moment could catalyze such significant dialogue. "It's incredible how something so small can lead to such big conversations," he said thoughtfully. "I hope this incident serves as a reminder that we all have a responsibility to treat each other with dignity." As for Trump, he continued to navigate the complexities of public perception amid ongoing scrutiny over his past actions and statements related to race. The incident with Marcus became part of a larger narrative surrounding his presidency, one that would continue to be discussed long after he left office. Ultimately, what began as an awkward moment between two men transformed into a powerful catalyst for change. A reminder that every interaction carries weight, and that respect is essential in building bridges across divides. Conclusion and reflection. As the dust settled from the whirlwind of reactions surrounding the incident between Donald Trump and Marcus Johnson, it became clear that this moment had transcended its initial awkwardness. What had begun as a seemingly trivial snub had evolved into a powerful dialogue about respect, race, and the importance of acknowledging one another's humanity. The impact of that evening would resonate far beyond the walls of the ballroom, sparking conversations that challenged societal norms and encouraged introspection. In the months following the event, Marcus continued to build on his newfound platform. He became an advocate for diversity in the culinary industry, participating in panels, workshops, and community outreach programs aimed at empowering aspiring chefs from underrepresented backgrounds. His story inspired many, serving as a beacon of hope for those navigating similar challenges in their careers. Marcus often reflected on how one moment could catalyze such significant change. "It's not just about me," he would say during interviews. "It's about everyone who has felt overlooked or disrespected. We all deserve to be seen and valued." His words resonated with many who had faced discrimination or bias in their own lives, reinforcing the idea that collective action could lead to meaningful progress. In contrast, Trump found himself grappling with the fallout from the incident as it became part of a larger narrative surrounding his presidency. Critics pointed to this moment as indicative of deeper issues within his administration, issues related to race relations, inclusivity, and respect for individuals from diverse backgrounds. The incident with Marcus served as a reminder that actions have consequences, and public figures must navigate their roles with care and consideration. As discussions about race and representation continued to unfold across various sectors, politics, media, and business, Marcus's experience became a touchstone for broader conversations about accountability. Organizations began implementing training programs focused on diversity and inclusion, recognizing that fostering a respectful environment was essential for both personal and professional growth. In one particularly impactful initiative, several culinary schools across the country adopted new curricula aimed at promoting diversity within their programs. They invited chefs from various backgrounds to share their experiences and insights with students, emphasizing the importance of representation in kitchens everywhere. Marcus was often invited to speak at these events, sharing not only his culinary expertise, but also his journey toward advocacy. As Marcus traveled from city to city, he encountered countless individuals who shared their stories with him, stories of overcoming adversity, battling stereotypes, and striving for recognition in industries where they felt invisible. These interactions reinforced his belief that food could indeed serve as a bridge between cultures and communities. Meanwhile, social media continued to buzz with discussions about respect and accountability. The hashtags #RespectInTheKitchen and Chef Marcus remained relevant as people shared their own experiences of bias in various fields. The conversation had shifted from one isolated incident to a broader movement advocating for change, a movement that encouraged individuals to speak up against injustice in all its forms. Reflecting on this evolution, Marcus noted how important it was for everyone to engage in these conversations. "We can't afford to be silent," he said during one panel discussion. "Silence allows biases to persist. It's our responsibility to challenge them." His words echoed throughout the industry, inspiring others to join him in advocating for inclusivity. As time passed, the incident faded from headlines but remained etched in public consciousness as a pivotal moment in discussions about race relations in America. It served as a reminder that even small actions could have far-reaching consequences, a lesson that resonated deeply with many. In retrospect, both Marcus and Trump learned valuable lessons from their encounter. For Marcus, it reinforced his commitment to advocating for respect and representation within the culinary world. For Trump, it highlighted the importance of being aware of how actions could be perceived by others, a lesson that would linger long after he left office. Ultimately, this story serves as a powerful reminder that every interaction carries weight. Whether we are leaders or everyday individuals, we have an opportunity and a responsibility to treat one another with dignity and respect. In doing so, we can create spaces where everyone feels valued and heard. As we reflect on this incident today, let us carry forward its lessons: that acknowledgement matters, that respect is fundamental, and that our voices can drive change when we choose to speak up against injustice. In a world often divided by differences, it is through understanding and compassion that we can build bridges, one handshake at a time. This story is not just about Donald Trump or Marcus Johnson. It is about all of us, our shared humanity and our collective journey toward creating a more inclusive society where everyone has the opportunity to thrive.